There, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel and welcome to Danni Vee's 4K Hooray Celebration Hop. Today I am actually scrap lifting her, although that was not a requirement for this hop. She actually gave us a list of different things that she typically uses on her layouts and asked us to use at least 4 of them for in honor of her 4K subscribers. So I actually used more than 4. I used 6, and we'll just say that extra 2 were in anticipation of her reaching 6K. We'll just do it that way. So I've got 4 things and I'm going to add an extra 2. So I started with these strips of paper, most of which are 2 inches wide, with the exception of that one that has all the stripes on it. And I am using my fringe scissors to go ahead and cut those all the way across. And I have this paper that I actually turned into a cut file, and I know it just looks like a heart was cut out of it, but there were actually 3 hearts. So it was one big heart, and then inside that large heart were 2 other hearts, and I am going to use those pieces on the layout as well, so you'll see those coming up in a few moments. Well, maybe a few minutes. And then, so a cut file was one of the items that she had on her list. The other items were pink and mint, which I didn't really use any pink or mint. Well, there's pink that's mixed in, but not specifically pink. And then she had vellum on her list and puffy stickers, and I will be using a couple of puffy stickers. She had ink splatters and pattern paper and stitching, which I have all 3 of those. Tiny words, which I'm going to add some tiny words, the cut file, and enamel dots. I don't use any enamel dots, but I do end up using, like I said, a couple of puffy stickers. And you can see there around that heart cut file, I have already done a bit of stitching, and you're going to see me do some additional stitching later, so we will cover how to do the stitching further in the video. But what I did here was I take a mouse pad and a paper piercer, a pokey tool, a thumbtack. You can use any of those types of items. You just want to pre-poke the holes. It just makes it a little easier when you're actually doing the stitching. So I started at the bottom point of that heart because I knew I wanted that point to have be pointed. So in order to achieve that, that's where I began. That black strip of paper that you see on the back there, that is just basically holding those strips of paper in place. If I were to go and do this again, I might have actually used the background paper as my piece of paper to put that fringe papers on top of, but I didn't. I went ahead and stuck them to the back of this white paper that I used as a cut file, and then I took it to my trimmer, which was a huge mistake. I should not have done that. I should have just used my scissors and cut it, because what it did was it kind of cut the strip or the fringe piece that was furthest left at an angle, and it kind of chopped it up so it doesn't look as clean. But it's not too hard to fix it. The ones that are really kind of looking chopped up or cut at an angle, I can easily kind of tear those off and then add another piece right over the top of where that one should have been. And so it's not too difficult to fix, but it would have just been a lot easier had I just used my scissors to start with. So note to self, if you plan to scrap lift this, just use your scissors. Don't try and use your trimmer on the fringe. It's a big mess. And then I'm adding a little bit of the Nuvo glue to kind of hold those strips of paper together, because like I said, I didn't adhere them to the black paper first, which is probably an easier idea. But I'm going to use the leftover pieces of those fringe strips on another one of the hearts that I cut out of the center of that large heart. And you're going to see that coming up in just a bit. Now here is one of the hearts, the heart that is going to be on the right hand side. You can also see the center is cut out of that. That little it's not really tiny, but the smallest of the 3 hearts is going to get used as well, and that one is going to have the stitching all the way around it. So I am using this one that looks like it has a hole in the center, and it's not going to show it all. I'm just using it as a template for my fringe so that I can have a heart that has fringe all over it. And it doesn't really matter that there's nothing in the middle of it because, like I said, it's not going to show. The fringe is going to cover it all. And so it's just giving me the basic outline of the heart. And that heart is going to be all the way to the right on the layout, just like in Danni's. Now, it's not too hard to do this. I just add a little bit of adhesive to either the strip of paper or to the actual template that I am using there. Either one works, but there is a hole in the center of it, so you do have to make sure that you get it on the edges, and you don't really need to put adhesive all the way across those strips of paper because they're not adhering to anything at this point, because it's not like it's already adhered down to the layout or anything. There's nothing behind it in the center, so don't waste your adhesive there. And when I get to the top here, I am going to have to piece some things together because I ran out of a couple of the colors that I wanted to put in there. I do end up going and cutting an additional piece of the yellow because I didn't have enough of the yellow to go all the way across. So it got a little tricky up here at the top. I don't know if hers is fringed all the way at the top or if it's just a solid piece. It was a little bit hard for me to tell in the layout, but I am going to go ahead and keep mine fringed, but the fringe pieces are just going to be glued down. So here's when I go ahead and add another piece of that yellow. It doesn't have to be the same length or anything because it is going to be covered across the top, but it does have to at least reach down as far as the other yellow. So I like how that's looking. I do need to trim across the top pretty quick here so I know where the additional or where the humps of the heart are for my next layer. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that down. I'm going to trim down the center V there just to make sure I have it, all of the fringe adhered down, and obviously I didn't. When I flip it over, you see that there's a gap in the center there, but I'm going to go ahead and add those pieces back, which, like I said, it's not very hard to do. You just add a little bit of adhesive at the top and go ahead and glue those down. So it's not very difficult. Just takes a little bit of time, and that's why this video is a little bit longer, because this layout was a little bit more labor intensive. But I really loved this layout that she did, and like I said, we weren't really required to scrap lift her, but I decided to go ahead and do it because I just love this layout so much. So this last piece of paper, I do not have any more of it, and that's all I have, so I am going to have to kind of finagle it across the top. I end up making it work. It was kind of a pain, but it does work. So you might want to make sure that you have more paper than what I had. And the reason that I was kind of stuck using this paper is not only did I use it for the other heart, but I wanted to go ahead and bring that piece of paper in because I have it in other places in the album that this particular layout is going in. I'm going to be adding photos from our 25th anniversary in Kauai, and so this paper has been used, and I like to use those papers as much as possible throughout the layout so that it has a lot of continuity. It doesn't have to be exactly like, you don't have to have every paper on every layout, but where I can, I do like to use them so that, like I said, you get a little bit of continuity. So here's where I just kind of like struggle trying to just make it fit, but I do have lots of bits and pieces on my desk there that look like they're trash, but I will end up using a couple of pieces of those to kind of fill in the missing areas. And I'm just going to end up doing those like 2 by 2 or 1 by 1, and it ends up working. And at the end of the day, you can't really tell that it was not a one complete piece of paper. I suppose if you really were looking at the pattern, you might be able to tell, but for the most part, it's not a big deal. So while I finish that up, I wanted to remind you to check out everybody else who is playing along, helping Danni celebrate her 4,000 subscribers. She is extremely talented, and she definitely has a lot of inspiration on her channel. So I would highly recommend that you go and check it out. Leave her a little bit of love and check out the other people who are playing along in honor of her milestone. So I apologize that this little process is taking so long, but I wanted to leave it in here so that you can see that, you know what, sometimes we all struggle with scrapbooking. It's not always the easiest, easy for everyone. We all run into those kind of little snafus in our scrapbooking where we kind of have to piece things together or correct things that maybe didn't get done the way that we thought that they would, because maybe we didn't plan ahead. That might have been my problem. So anyway, here is where I am doing my stitching. I have a piercing tool here. This is a really old Amy Tangerine piercing tool, but a thumbtack that has like a plastic head on it would work really well also. And I am doing a chain stitch. So what you do here is you go up from the bottom, and then so I'm going to consider that last hole. I'm going up through the bottom there, and then I'm going to go down through the same hole, but I'm going to hold part of the stitch back so it makes a loop, and then I'm going to go up through the next hole, catching that loop and then pulling it tight. So now I'm going to make that loop again, go down through the same hole that I came up through, go up through the next hole, and make a loop. Go down, make a loop, come up through the loop. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll let you just watch that for just a few seconds here, and then I'm going to move on to the next step. So I usually just tie a knot when I start my stitching, and that holds it at the beginning edge, and then I use a little bit of washi tape to finish it off. Now I am going to trim down a couple little pieces that were bothering me here. Like I said, I should have just done that from the beginning and it would have been a lot easier. So I really like how it's coming together, aside from that little problem that I was having there on the left-hand side. But otherwise, I really like how it's coming together. I am going to use this black paper. The reason that I put the adhesive on the black is because I want it to really hold all of that fringed area, and running my tape runner across all of that fringe would have been a huge problem. So I just made sure that the fringe was all held down by putting the tape runner on the black rather than on the fringe itself. And so that works out for me. And then this little piece, I'm able to put that down. And then I'm going to tuck in this white heart behind. And remember, all three of those hearts were cut out of the same section on the left-hand side of the paper. I am going to pop this up onto foam because the fringe has dimension, and the stitching on the white stitching around the largest heart there adds dimension too. So I need to kind of pop it up so that my heart is nice and flat in the middle. Now I'm going to have to do the same thing with my photographs because that white heart is popped up. I need to pop up the bottom of the photographs. And that is just a picture of my husband and I. We went out to dinner one of the days. We were in Kauai. It was super hot outside, and we just found a nice restaurant to have dinner at and just enjoy the evening together. So I really like how this came out. I did mat it with both black and white, just like the layout has the black and the white, so it adds a little continuity across there. It also makes the photos pop because they are matted in the black as well as the white. So I really am happy with that. And then I pull out some embellishments that I think will work. First, I think I'm going to use that flower that's up at the top, and there is a matching one that I'm going to use on the right hand side, but I do change it up. I pull out some different flowers instead. I cut apart that 3x4 card that says just me and you, and I'm going to use that as some of my tiny words because it had 2 girls on it. I didn't need 2 girls on it. I just wanted the actual words. This is some of the papers in here, or most of the papers in here, are from the Jen Hadfield Chasing Adventure collection, and so it had a lot of little girls in it, out doing adventurous type of things. But obviously I don't need that for a layout about my husband and myself. These florals that I decide to end up using, I bought in a digital kit, and those are printed on my home printer, and then they are run through my scan and cut to be cut out. And so you won't find those in a regular collection pack that you can just buy at the store. You would have to buy like the digital collection, but I'm sure there's plenty of other florals that you might be able to use. These are not the same florals that Danni has on her layout. So they just happen to work on my layout, and I chose those bright colors because there's already a lot going on this layout, and I wanted them to kind of pop off the page. And so I'm just kind of getting my embellishments figured out where I want them, and I am going to pop those flowers up onto foam as well, because like I said, there is stitching underneath, so I definitely need something underneath the flowers to support them. And I believe that Find Your Happy Place is a clear sticker from Heidi Swap's Art Walk. And it is just backed on a piece of white cardstock and then fussy cut out. The camera on the right hand side is from P13. It's one of their collections from maybe last summer, maybe the summer before. I'm not really sure. But I just love the cameras, and it had an entire page of those cameras in different colors. So I really liked how that looked. And these puffy stickers here are from Simple Stories, and I thought I would put them down the right hand side, but I think I'm going to leave that right hand area open for some journaling. And so putting them up here in the heart worked out really well, and I like how that looks, so that makes me super happy. Again, I have to pop these things up onto some foam tape just because there is so much dimension with the fringe, and especially the fringe on the heart on the right hand side, because that is actually on top of the page versus the one on the left hand side is underneath the page, but that one on the left side has the stitching around it. So no matter which way you look at it, I had to use a lot of foam tape to kind of support the items that I was layering on top. And that's not a problem. I just use Fun Foam from Walmart. It is adhesive backed on one side, and then I just use my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive on the opposite side. I haven't had any problems with it sticking or staying, and it works really well. I also use my acrylic block to hold things down while they kind of like set, and that's pretty much going to do it. I did add in an epoxy flare from Scrap and Happy Studio over on the right hand side, and a little bit of gold Heidi Swap color shine. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you have questions or comments, you can leave those down below. I will get back to you as quickly as I can. Don't forget to go and check out all of the other wonderful people that are playing along. Thank you for choosing my channel today. I really appreciate it. If you don't mind hitting the thumbs up down below, I'd really appreciate that as well. And if you're not already subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. And I will see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.